Morning, everyone. My name is Lavi Tugwere, and you're welcome to today's government class. But before we start our class, I want to congratulate you to making it to the new year. Welcome to 2025, and 2025 promises to be great, wonderful, even as we carry on in our learning activities today. So, in today's government class, we are going to be looking at a very, very, very important topic that will be useful, especially for those of us who will be writing the IGCSE and a lot of others. The IGCSE, global perspectives, global politics, and even the IGCSE history. We're going to be looking at a very, very essential and crucial topic that will be great for us as we go through this. So I would be sharing my screen. I will be sharing my screen, and I expect us to carry on with this topic. So in today's class, we're looking at the indirect rule. And when you hear the word indirect rule, or you hear the topic indirect rule, what comes to mind? I brought out this picture. We're going to be looking at the thinking between see, think, and wonder. So when you see this picture, what comes to mind? This is one of the great proponents of the subject's indirect rule. So see, think, wonder. What comes to mind? What do you see? You see a picture. What do you think about this picture? And what are you wondering about this picture? So if I were to be in your shoes, I would say, I see a picture of a man. I think it should be American or British. And I wonder why I'm being shown this picture. Good. So this is the picture of the man known as Lord Lugard, who was a foremost proponent of the indirect rule policy. He started it in India, practiced it in Uganda, and brought it when it was made the Governor General of Nigeria, or the region now known as Nigeria. So let's move on. What is the indirect rule system? What is the indirect rule system? Now, the indirect rule system is simply known as the British colonial policy that used traditional rulers or African traditional rulers, the institutions and the structures. So the indirect rule system didn't want to bring something foreign to the locals or the colonial region, the regions that have been colonized in Africa. So they made use of the traditional rulers, not just the traditional rulers, the traditional institutions in place, and even the traditional structures. So the British, the indirect rule policy is a British colonial policy where traditional rulers, institutions, and structures were used in administrating African territories or colonized African territories. They also made use of the native authority. The native authority is the institution of local administration of indirect rule in British West Africa. This is like a convergence. It's like the amalgamation, the marriage of the native authority and the British West African, the British rule. What are the features of the indirect rule system? We have customs and tradition, the use of traditional customs and tradition, or the respect of traditional customs and tradition. They didn't try to change anything in British West Africa, but this is in juxtapose of what happened in French West Africa. So we have the use of native courts, the collection of taxes, which was foreign to Africans, especially in colonized Africans in British territories, the use of traditional rulers, traditional institutions, the use of the police and prisons, and the respect for traditional rule or authorities. Now, what is the reason for the adoption of the indirect rule system? First of all, the lack of British personnel. Bringing British personnel from the United Kingdom, London, was very expensive because they had to move with their family, moved with so many. So it's the British government didn't want to spend much because the British West Africa and Nigeria was like a farm, was like a workplace where they used to get money to sort out other needs. So the lack of British personnel. Another one is to satisfy the economic needs of colonialists. That was a period of scramble for Africa, where African territories were shared or distributed among colonial masters to fit or to cater for certain needs that they had in their country. Another one was the harsh weather condition, poor calamity condition. The British West Africa or Nigeria was known as, British West Africa was known as a white man's grave. A lot of them died there due to harsh weather conditions, mosquitoes, before the discovery of quinine. Language barrier. The cost of administration was very cheap. Using traditional rulers to administrate this territory was very cheap. And the goal of the British government is cheap labor, cheap. They didn't want to spend much. And then the role and the position of the traditional rulers. The traditional rulers were respected in African territories. So it was smart or wise for them to just use them to control this territory. The one is, another one is the success of this system in other places like Uganda, like I explained earlier, and India. And then lastly, amongst us, last but not the least, is the large expanse of land. So Africa was very large and they needed to just use that to control it. What are the failures? For every success, there's also failure. What are the failures of this indirect rule system? The rights of the people were abused, evil practices thrived, tension and misunderstanding between the chiefs and educated elites. And the educated elites were seen as threats to the British colonial policy because these ones are already educated. These educated elites were a group of educated Africans who have gone to London, the United Kingdom to study, and they've seen how life should be, and they started pushing for, and it was from this failure of the indirect rule system that gave rise from the educated elites like Herbert Macaulay to start agitating for nationalism. The unsatisfactory activities of native courts, appointment and high-handedness of warrant chiefs, especially what led to the Abawomen riots of 1929. Development were retarded. Every development that was made in these African territories were for the white men, whether it's schools, whether it's dispensaries, whether it's hospitals, whether it's good roads, was just to transport goods. It's not basically to develop Africa or these territories. Now, the system also excluded the educated elites and Africans from government. Remember, I said that the educated elites were seen as threat to the indirect rule system because they were questioning the colonialism. And then lastly, traditional rulers were reduced to stooges and puppets. They were just puppets in the hands of the British colonial leaders. And then that is all about the indirect rule system. If you have any question, you can ask, send it, put in the chat box and send to me. But do you have any question? Any question? Something you don't understand and the rest? Okay, since there's no question, you're going to do this through assessment or evaluation. Number one, why did the educated elite decide the British policy of indirect rule? And then secondly, you have to do an extensive study. The indirect rule system was coined successful in northern Nigeria. Do you agree? Extrapolate your reasons. The indirect rule was coined to be successful in northern Nigeria, partially successful in western Nigeria, and a complete failure in eastern Nigeria. What are the reasons? Do you agree? And then extrapolate or show your reason. So we'll come to the end of this class. I hope you learned a lot today, which I'm sure you did. So see you in next class. Please do your evaluation and send to me. Have a great and wonderful day. Bye-bye.